thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
Welcome to 100 Not Out, featuring your hosts Dr. Damien Christoph and Marcus Pearce.
Welcome to another edition of 100 Not Out, a weekly show helping you master the art of aging well. My name is Marcus Pearce, and here I am with the king of food himself. He's Dr. Damien Christoph, co-founder of The Wellness Couch and The Wellness Guys. How are you, legend?
Hi, Marcus.
Great to be back here, 100 Not Out HQ. There is a lot that I want to talk to you about on this episode. And before I do, I want to mention that this episode of 100 Not Out proudly brought to you by the great Forage Cereal in Nature. Find health, go to foragecereal.com. This episode all about food. Yeah. I'm going to turn back to my natural state as journalist. And I want to ask you a lot because what I've recognised recently, I had a bit of an epiphany. Listening to an interview, and I don't know where it was, but I just remember the person said, food these days is no longer about sustenance.
True.
And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's not. It's not. And when I say that was an epiphany, it made me recognise that the other parts of food are more important. The other roles that food plays are more important than ever before. But there's some added dimensions to food, which I'll expand on over the course of this episode, that I think I've been resisting, but I think are important. To give you a little example.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Of where I'm going here. I was on the plane on the way down here.
Yep.
And I don't normally read the in-flight magazine, but we were descending, and the book that I was reading was just a bit too heavy, so I thought I'll just have some light reading.
What was the book?
Sell Your Thoughts by Matt Church.
Ah,
heavy book, great book.
I like it.
Yeah, but it's not light reading.
No, I've got the DVD of it.
Yeah, good stuff.
You want that?
I think it came with a book. It comes in the back of the book, I think.
It does.
Maybe I do.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, good on you, Matt. So anyway, I opened up the in-flight magazine and I got onto a page about what's called, and some people here would know what this is, a Freakshake. And I said to you before on air, before we came on, have you heard of a Freakshake?
No.
So a Freakshake became, and still is, a social media phenomenon where cafes would create, it's almost like the heart attack hamburger version of a smoothie. So it's a glass jar of, let's say, an incredibly decadent chocolate milkshake, thick shake. And on top of it, you might have a donut, a pavlova,
Seriously?
a banana,
Wow.
a croissant, and
all on top of it?
Yeah, so it's all, the Freakshake had nothing to do with ease of eating.
Right.
It had all to do with presentation.
Okay.
And so it's kind of taken the whole food porn thing to a whole nother level.
Totally.
But when I say it was a social media phenomenon, what got me really interested was that I often go, oh, how much does social media really impact my business? Because I am a bit of a social media dinosaur. I don't lose sleep at night going, how do I grow my social media numbers? I don't wake up going, how do I grow my social media numbers? If something happens, I thought, I'll bang it on Facebook, right? But what really got me fascinated was cafes would have lines of up to 2 hours
waiting for a Freakshake
on the launch of a new Freakshake.
Goodness gracious.
So you go and Google, and everyone else can go and listen. Everyone else listening or watching, go onto Instagram and hashtag Freakshake, and you'll see cafes. It started in Canberra, it then moved its way down to Melbourne. I think the term Freakshake is now trademarked by the cafe in Canberra. I can't quite remember it. Again, I don't have the magazine in front of me. But then moved down, there's a cafe in Melbourne that does it. It's gone all the way to London, where it's really starting to catch on. People are lining up for these Freakshakes. And the argument was, we all know these Freakshakes are incredibly unhealthy. It's not a superfood fad. It's more like a...
Well, you could have banana.
Yeah, absolutely. So you could make a healthy Freakshake, right?
Could be. Put a bit of herb with it.
But the movement hasn't been health driven.
No.
It's been...
Interesting.
So it got me thinking that, like food, it's no longer about sustenance. This is a form of art for some people. It's a way that they make things pretty, so I don't know what you'd call it in art, but you know the things that are really quite random in nature, but
abstract.
So it seems like an abstract version of food art. But at the same time, the social media phenomenon of it was that businesses are thriving, like on a social media post. So they would make this incredible Freakshake, push it out to their tribe. Everyone would go and share it. That looks delicious. That looks disgusting or whatever. But you know, it's like, here we are, 6 a.m. launch of the triple choc croissant Freakshake. Come and get it now. And people are going down and getting it. A bit like when Tim Robards would say, I'm going to the park to work on the ropes.
Yep.
I'll be there from 6 o'clock.
Come down.
People go down and do it. So that's great for business. And so seeing that as great for business in, say, a Freakshake business, this makes me realise that food is no longer about picking a banana off or picking an apple off the tree and eating it. It's become so much more than that. So I kind of wanted to chat to you about the changing nature of food. And what I'm kind of realising is that I can't fight it. Like, it's not going anywhere. The rise of food on social media is not going anywhere. My question for you is, are we in a difficult transitional phase? Is it making people healthier or is it making people sicker? The fact that food has become just such a massive part of our newsfeed.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, that's a great question. And I think the reason why it's such a great question, Marcus Pearce, is because you've got some food porn out there that is of green smoothies, forage porridge, birches, acai bowls. An apple. Yeah. That's right. Micro herbs on food. So foods that would have you looking at meals differently and how that might nourish your body and, shift your health and maybe make you feel or look more beautiful or whatever, right? So there's that aspect to social media that's possibly driving a beneficial craving for change of good food. But then on the flip side, definitely as people are celebrating the healthy stuff, you are creating the opposite effect. And so other people are going, I'm so sick of green smoothies. If I see another green smoothie or another person doing a yoga pose on Instagram, I'm going to go and hang myself. So all of a sudden something else has started to come out, which is the complete opposite to that, to balance it out. It's much the same as the whole vegan versus paleo argument, or what we spoke about this morning with Tim Robards, was where we were speaking about grain coming back into vogue again, because we went so hardcore pro-grain to then paleo anti-grain to then coming back into some kind of balanced space again. So Interesting. I think you're right, Marcus. I think that anything that gets some kind of social media traction is going to drive some kind of increased desire. And we've seen that with fads around food over the last, since social media really got going. What's that, 10 or 12 years since Facebook's been going? So it's been going strong, but now the shift from voyeurism, watching a person do stuff, it's now you're trying to work out what it is that the person actually does around food. So
if social media is not going anywhere...
It's going stronger.
Right, it's going to only going to get stronger.
It's not going away.
I don't know about you, but I mean, personally, I'm not a social media... I'm not a good sample, because I don't make food that I see on social media, but I don't make most of the food in the house. I cook eggs and greens at breakfast, and I do Saturday night dinner. The rest, Sarah's preparing. But I don't think Sarah does a lot of food that she sees online. She's still quite traditional in that she'll have a quirky cooking cookbook, a Pete Evans cookbook, a few other cookbooks, and she'll just go, oh yeah, I'll make that tonight, or I'll make that tonight. But a lot of people are so influenced by what they see on social media now. Does that mean that as we get older, we're going to lose our, for a better term, independent thinking when it comes to food? So we're almost going to be reliant on... Is social media going to become the new recipe book? Maybe. Where whenever we want something, we're always going there.
Well, people go to Pinterest, don't they?
Yeah, but
they're still looking for that.
The challenge is, sorry to cut you off, but the challenge with social media...
Not unusual.
Seriously, I'm sorry to cut you off on this occasion, because it's an incomplete question. Okay. The challenge on social media, if you talk to anyone these days that are posting, it takes them half an hour to make the pretty picture and do everything right. And then almost with the hidden perception that it should be so easy for you to do at home. And people get in the kitchen and they feel like failures because they can't make or replicate what they saw on social media. Whereas when we just had the old-fashioned cookbook that said prep time 10 minutes, cook time 20 minutes, these are the ingredients, go forth and multiply, we'd go and do it. And most of the time we get it pretty close to what it says.
Yeah.
But this day and age, that doesn't necessarily happen so easily, because everything's very... masqueraded in perfection before it gets put on. So are people going to have more of a complex around their food because I didn't get it like it said it was on Instagram or Facebook or what have you?
Maybe. I think that still flavour is going to drive food.
Taste.
Yeah.
Yep.
Flavor's going to drive it. You know, people did kale for a long enough time to know that kale generally doesn't taste fantastic. But everyone's going, oh, I love kale chips. It tastes so good. I love it when you put heaps of salt on it. In other words, I love it when it doesn't taste like kale.
Yeah.
And then it didn't take long before people realised that unless they had kale cooked, it could have potentially damaging effects on the thyroid gland. So very quickly, people jumped off the kale bandwagon. It's got to taste good. Paleo tastes good. Vegan tastes good. Most things that taste good will thrive and survive.
Even if they're unhealthy, that's the thing. So it's still going to be relying on taste.
Yeah, a Freakshake probably tastes good. And so does those massive heart attack burgers. They taste good and they, signal a challenge and people tend to like that. So anything that's going to make people, I don't know, rise to something or enjoy it, because it's got to be fun, right?
Yeah.
So if it's not fun, people aren't going to want to do it. People will go there.
So taste has been the number one. Well, actually, sustenance would be the number one. If we think of, the old days, all of the years, like Paleolithic years, or all the rest of it, it's been about sustenance, like keeping people alive. Okay, and then if we take it up a level, well, then helping people to thrive, so not just survival, but thrival. And then it's probably taste, right? Because I know probably our grandparents would be like, well, when we were kids...
bread and dripping.
Yeah. And so it wasn't about taste. It was just what keeps the kids alive. And then the next step would be what keeps them healthy.
Yeah, true.
Now it's about taste.
Yeah.
Well, in the last probably 40 years, it's probably grown and grown and grown. More about taste. And that now is on... And
Sorry, I had to say this.
There's no cough button here at 100 HQ. No sneeze button.
Thought I was going to try and get through that one. I was like, am I going to be able to get rid of it?
That was priceless. If only I could slow-mo that. We might slow-mo that. That's cool.
Oh, wow.
So now, the taste of food is on steroids.
Yeah.
Everything is about how it tastes.
High flavour,
It's
high flavour.
not about sustenance anymore.
No.
And it's not just about what keeps you healthy. It's got to keep you healthy, and it's got to taste awesome.
Or it doesn't even have to keep you healthy. It's just got to tast awesome.
Yeah, but if you're health
health conscious. Yeah.
If you're not health conscious, then it's all about taste.
We keep on talking about numbers, though. We keep talking about obesity, ever increasing, and then people who are looking after their health and well-being tends to be around about this percent. The numbers don't seem to be changing. It still probably comes back to the 80-20. Or as Tim Robards would say, 7-2-1. But it's, 80-20 appears to be that same rule of thumb. 80% of the population are probably only going by taste. Putting into their body what tastes good. And then if it's healthy, cool. If it's not healthy, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
They'll be right.
Yeah.
They'll be right.
Everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation, including everything. And then and then you've got those people, the 20%ers, and of that 20%, 80% of them are probably going pretty hard out at it. And then the 20% of the 20% are probably,
Yeah. A bit more like,
intense.
Bit more like. Oh, you're saying 80% are cool and 20% are fanatical?
Fanatical.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's only
Fanatical.
a small percentage.
It's a very small percentage that are so hardcore fanatical. I think a lot of people would do the double tap on Instagram because they like the look of it, not necessarily because they're going to go and create it or find it or seek it.
Well, as Joe Witten, spoke about, did an event with our good friend Maria Zushman. Shout out to Maria.
Yeah, Maria and Joe.
And we were doing the Busy Mum Solution in Shell Harbour. And Joe was talking about... Shell Harbour?
Shell Harbour.
Do you call it... Is it not Shell Harbour?
You got to say Shell Harbour.
Really? Isn't that like a... Anyway, I'm digressing, right? So Joe was saying no one sees on social media, no one sees the tears of that person that didn't get the picture for 2 hours. And no one sees the person that made that meal, that stuffed it up 3 or 4 times, that actually went and got Chinese takeaway because they couldn't get it. Only to then sometime later get the picture that you see on Facebook.
Yeah.
So it's not a true reflection.
Still don't reckon those pictures are worth $500 or $1,500. I think they're too expensive for a post.
Yeah.
But that's the way they're charging these days. But I think you're right. There's a lot of effort that goes into making food look good, particularly if you're not a chef. It's the chefs
if you're a mum of young kids, and you got 30 minutes to cook dinner,
put it in the Bunnykins bowl and off it goes. Yeah. The kids are happy to eat it.
It's got to be quick. All right, so taste is still the driver.
Yeah.
The other things that I've noticed that I've noted down that I think are keys, and this is what I teach, and I know this is what you teach, but I'm wondering where you think this is heading, is the social side of food. So the social side, we've spoken about the nutritional side, keeping us healthy and taste. What about the social side of food? Is it going to improve? Because I think it's pretty average at the moment, but do you think it's going to improve, or are we going to retreat into our shell more?
The irony is that coming together and eating a meal is the way it all started. That's the way it all started. And then in order to try and, be more productive or to get more things done, you kind of had your lunch to yourself. Breakfast be on the run, lunch to yourself, come home, have dinner. Now, people are probably sitting in front of their computer, maybe watching a little bit of television.
TV dinners.
That's right. And not really having community time or communication time around meal times. Now, you go out to cafes, and I eat out every single day. I do. Every day I'll have a meal out somewhere. And generally, it's my lunch. Sometimes it's lunch and dinner. Sometimes it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so I'm always making better choices and great choices in the cafes that I go to. What's amazing is the increase in price. So where the cafe used to be a place that people would go, because food now has become such a popular thing,
right.
Cafes are putting the prices up, and it's driving people away. And
Is
so,
it driving you nuts?
look, food's my number one priority outside of my family and my relationships. So I will spend the money. So I'm one of the rare people that sees food as an essential part of my social life. And so I'll spend it. It just means that I don't spend money on other things might be more discretionary.
Yeah.
So, but there's people out there going, I can't afford to eat out every single day. You should be able to. But in Australia at the moment, food's become very, very expensive when you're out. And that in itself is going to be counterproductive to people going out to eat food. We went down to a cafe just before, it wasn't full, but the price of the food is too expensive. To get some kale and some eggs on a couple of bits of toast, which you don't want to eat both bits of toast anyway, and some mushrooms, it costs you over $20. It shouldn't cost that much, and you're paying for a chef who does beautiful presentation, but it should be half the price, and all of a sudden you're feeding the masses and you're bringing more people into the cafe. It meets the purpose of the social arrangement around food.
So food, more than ever then, has become about class structure.
Class structure.
Because I know that one of your big things, the reason why I asked is to drive you nuts, because I know when we did the How Do You Fly Summit or the Right Diet Summit, we spoke about your biggest driver is helping, the price of food drives you batty.
Yep.
Because food should not be as expensive as it is and out of reach. If people in the world aren't going to earn a certain amount of money, that should not exclude them from certain foods or certain experiences.
That's right.
But what you're saying is that cafes, because where we went, it wasn't over the top. It wasn't like 50% more than other cafes. But what you're saying is most cafes are overpriced, which then excludes the opportunity for people to congregate at a cafe. Yes, they can go and make a picnic and catch up with friends and the rest. But if you actually just don't want to prepare your own food for once, and you do just want to catch up somewhere where a cook or a chef is making it for you, that's become out of reach for too many people.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's almost making food unsociable.
Yeah. And so now we gather for cheese and crackers or Vegemite sandwiches made at home.
That's right.
Right. Instead of being able to go out for a chicken salad or a smashed avo
and to celebrate.
And to celebrate.
Yeah. So you bring a celebration back home, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. But I think that cafes and restaurants, because they're getting a little bit fancy pants, are probably doing themselves a bit of a disservice. And they're wondering why they're not full.
So then, so like you say, good and bad in everything. Cafes and restaurants are going to become more elitist. But the benefit of that is it's going to drive socialising back inside the home. We're on a beautiful grandfather table here. We could have 10 or 12 people here, right?
Yep.
And that would be an incredible social experience. And we might say, let's have it here, and it might cost $50 to feed the table rather than pay $500, because you probably 10x
100%.
eating out. Because I kind of estimate we spend $400 a week in the Pierce house.
Yep.
There's 5 to 6 meals a day. It works out at about $2 per person per meal.
Mm-hmm.
But you would 10x that if you go out to a cafe or a restaurant, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So you can pretty much 10x anything that you eat So the changing nature of food being that social side of it is going to become more under the roof and four walls than outside in the cafe and the restaurant, which makes me a little bit sad.
But at the same time, I feel good about it. But I think that we're missing out as a society on maintaining and retaining a community.
Yeah, because and particularly when the family house is far less open. Like, you know, we walked past a fenced house earlier, but it wasn't just a fence; it was like a
barrier.
So
like a
houses
fortress.
aren't
It's a
all
fortress.
that. Yeah, it was a fortress. Houses aren't all that sociable anymore. The houses now, or homes, are a place where you come in, you bunker down. They're not an open, inviting place. So those, you know, for even as a family of young kids, it's a foreign concept. If you said get 2 or 3 other families around and everyone have dinner and the kids are running around going nuts and the parents all sit around and have dinner together.
Sure.
People are like, oh my gosh, that sounds like so much hard work. Like, you know.
Sounds amazing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people are like, oh no, we're 20 minutes away. And in the old days, it'd be like, well, I just live across the road and we'll all just walk to one person's house and the rest. But now we don't actually know those neighbours across the road and all the rest of it. And so it's all the rest. End result sounds amazing, but in the world that we live in, this is why I think this changing nature of food is changing so many other areas of our life. It doesn't seem to happen as easily and gracefully as it could. Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Okay, because we've gone through social, and that was really fascinating what you spoke about, how the class structure of eating out is changing society. We've spoken about nutrition, we've spoken about taste. What about food as a vehicle to just create gratitude or stillness or connection? Like in the old days, when you ate your food, you didn't necessarily always yabber on with everyone else around you. You could eat food quietly and kind of just, it was almost like quite meditative to just have your chicken salad, as I use the regular example, and look at your cucumber and go, fascinating, like bit of water, bit of sun, bit of soil.
Makes this.
And you're looking at it and you see a seed and that's fascinating, or you're looking at a tomato or whatever it is, and you'd have a real, want a better term, you'd have a moment with your food. Whereas now in this busy, fast-paced world, it's gobble, gobble, eat, gobble, gobble, you know, all the rest of it. And there's no real stillness or appreciation or gratitude for not just the food, but also for the life that we're living, for the heart that's beating, for the digestive system that does it all without us having to think about it. We don't generally create that space for us any longer. Do you think the way the world's going, will that time come back, or is that a long lost, you know, fable where we used to honour the food that we eat and have that moment to appreciate our life a bit more?
Look, mate, I think that the 80-20 rule is going to apply again. I know it sounds a little bit just a bit vanilla, a bit mediocre, but I think 80-20 is going to take its role here again. There'll be 20% of the people, you know, stop and appreciate and look, and there'll be, you know, 20% of that 20% will be hardcore, 80% of that 20% won't be too hardcore. But the 80%, they really couldn't give two. You know, they're just really out there just eating for the taste. Eating because they feel hungry and then stopping when they feel full and then and groundhog daying that.
And then on that, the 20% has to be happy to coexist and live with the 80% and not point fingers and go, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. One more question, because I've seen the time, but you've just reminded me of something. When we go to eat now, everyone's got one of these. When I was in Bali with Sarah, we were astonished that we'd be sitting down to breakfast. And I'm not saying this to be self-righteous. If it comes across that way, that's not my intention. We wouldn't take our phones to breakfast because we don't need our phones at breakfast. We're there to eat and to be with each other. We're in Bali. Like, we don't have any jobs to do, no appointments, whatever. And so there's people there on their honeymoons, on their wedding anniversaries, on their whatever. And they've got their food and then they're both, you know, and I'm like, babe, like, these people are meant to be on a holiday. Why are they so distracted by their phone? But they're not paying any attention to their food, no attention to each other, and they're just using this. This has changed the way people eat and dine. Is that going to change? Are people going to wake up, or are you going to say, you know what, don't mean to sound vanilla, but that's 80-20 again? Like,
no, I think it's even probably less than 80-20. I think that, you know, what we're going to start to see is that there'll be some people who are a bit more conscious around that, and it's people who place value on conversation and place value on family and place value on relationships that I think are going to move away from the device at the table. And it takes a conscious effort to do that because, you know, computers and phones have permeated our lives and, you know, to the extent that we're looking on our devices for what we're going to eat next, even when we're eating at the time.
Yeah, and like you said, I think we've done this on a previous episode. You consciously bring it up. Was it you, Jackson and Amber, that had you created a rule? It was like all phones stay at the desk or at the table or something.
Yep.
And I don't know if it was you or someone else talking about if they go out for dinner or a meal, the first person to pick up their phone is paying for the table.
No, it's not us.
It wasn't you.
It's always me that pays. So, and I don't look at the phone all the time.
But there's a few ways that, like you say, it takes a conscious effort or someone to kind of buck the trend and go, guys, this isn't good enough.
Yeah.
We're all here to congregate. We haven't seen each other all day. The last thing we need to do is check our phones. I want to know how your school was or how your day was or how your mum is or whatever. Let's talk whilst we're eating rather than checking in on whatever it is. Because that's now the new TV dinner.
Yeah.
Like instead of sitting, eating, watching TV, people are now just sitting and checking their phones. Thanks for accepting my barrage of questions. As
Pleasure.
you always do so graciously.
Pleasure. Thanks for asking great questions, Marcus
My
Pearce.
pleasure. It's great I hope you guys have found value in this changing nature of food. Again, it always seems to, nothing stays the same. Everything's always on the move. Go and have a look at a Freakshake. They're a phenomenal creation. I haven't had one. Don't think I will unless you can find me a really good superfood one.
We should go do it.
Yeah.
We'll find one.
Or we could make one in the kitchen.
Nah.
We'll get inspired.
Well, let's go and
then make
experience it.
Yeah, but they're full of stuff.
That's the idea of it.
Yeah, but you want to when in Rome on a Freakshake.
Why wouldn't you? You just
Maybe.
don't do it all the time.
If you do find us when in roaming on a Freakshake,
You'll see it on Instagram.
you will. You see it on Instagram. Thanks again for joining us on 100 Not Out. If you want to find out more, go to thewellnesscouch.com. Check out all of the podcasts available. You'll see 100 Not Out on Facebook. That's facebook.com/100 Not Out. Spell it all out. Check us out on YouTube at 100 Not Out. And also find out more about Damo at damianchristoph.com. Myself at marcuspearce.com.au. See you on the next episode, folks. Until next time, may the rest of your life continue to be the best of your life.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/The Wellness Couch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.